And we're here with Conor Ryan. Conor, what is up?
Nothing much, man. What's going on with you?
Nothing much. It's crazy. There's snow on the ground. Feels like last time we spoke, we were kind of making fun of the fact that it didn't feel like December. Now it kind of feels like December.
Yes, it's actually pretty bad out here, at least. I know around Boston it wasn't really that bad, but out in the Metro West area where you're from, where I'm currently living, a little bit worse. But I was getting sick of like the 60-degree days, right? We need to counter just a little bit, right?
Oh yeah, no, it felt good to see the snow coming down. And as Jerome McGinley said, wasn't that big a deal. Some random guy from Canada, he's okay with some snow. Um, but that might be my favorite Bruins story of the entire offseason. Just Jerome McGinley getting interviewed on like at a rest stop. And then Fox 25 just not realizing who it was.
Not realizing, but also like then like quoting him in the story. You think like at least someone along the lines would be like, "Oh, who's that? Oh yeah, no, it's the Hall of Famer." Yeah, apparently not though. But uh, it's funny though. You do see that like a couple of times. Like I was looking up like other times when that's happened. I think there was once where it was Adrian Peterson.
I saw
I
that.
think it was getting interviewed on the street, and you could tell like he clearly was like, "These guys don't know who I am." Okay, well, I'll still shoot the shit. But and then there was like one that was like Carl Alsner when he's with the Capitals, where he's like literally in his car and they're interviewing him too. So, but yeah, just the fact that it was just like I always imagine what like for those athletes, it's like when like the person comes up to you, it's like, do you have a minute to talk? And it's like,
Uh,
yeah, sure. It's a trap. No, but apparently not because they did not know who he was. So,
can we get your name, sir? Is that Jerome
yeah,
with an E or an A?
yes.
Um,
From
but
Canada?
oh my God, what brings you down here?
Yeah. Do you like
I love
hockey?
local news. I do. I think local news is a gem. That's why I hope it never goes away. Um, and obviously the ratings on it are low, and people kind of question whether it's sustainable. And like everybody watches, the national stuff and the cable news, your Foxes, your CNNs. But I live for cable news, gaffes, funny things. They're good reporters in general. But I do think that like just like the broadcasty voice over like very non-broadcasty things, I think is just perfect. That's why I hope
Uh,
local news never goes away.
it's also one of those things where I feel like every year especially the winter storm coverage gets crazier and crazier. Like I forget what channel I was watching, but like the dude was driving around in like something you'd probably see in Mad Max Fury Road. Like it was like a tank, like
I
doing
see
like
it.
kind of the one where they had like just a camera mounted up top, so it
Yep.
shows like what the weather conditions are. I think he was just whipping around Framingham, but it looked like he was driving in like a modified tank or like
Like a Batmobile.
yeah, exactly. And like, but he was like also like they had like a camera inside, and so he'd be talking, but it was like 4 inches away from his face, so it looked like the Blair Witch Project. Like
Oh,
I don't know what vehicle this man was driving in, but it probably cost the studio quite a bit of money to get because
I
it looked like a legitimate tank.
I was gonna say, I mean, think of the cost of that, like to do that. When you could kind of just like go take a company truck out, walk around. Granted, it's not as exciting. It doesn't go as viral on social media, but it
Hmm.
definitely is cheaper. It's kind of like, do you remember that the Storm Chasers show where they would chase like tornadoes around the Midwest? It'd be like this
Yeah,
group of like 10 dudes who would like, they'd be like, oh, there's gonna be an F4 or whatever they call it, like in mid Kansas today, and they'd like
yeah.
take like a regular Ford Explorer, and then like they had like a real like a truck they would like mount to the ground and put in the middle of tornadoes. Um, I think and I think they actually, I'm actually not going to say it because I don't want it to be false, but there was I think someone died from that show because of a tornado, but I could be wrong.
That's shocking.
That might have been a Reddit rumor. I don't, I can't, I cannot confirm on that. But yes, God bless local news. And yes, the storm coverage is always a fun time every year because it just gets better and better. There's also fun stories of like, I love seeing the videos. There'll be like and this isn't around here, but there'll be like a weather person covering a hurricane, and they're like holding
Oh,
themselves to the ground, and like they're not, their weather jacket isn't flapping, but they're like, they're twitching their head because they're getting blown over,
it,
and then you'll see some guy just walking behind them like no
exactly.
big
Yeah,
deal.
yeah. No, they're doing their own version of like the smooth criminal lean, and it's like, no, dude, it's 30 miles per hour. You're fine.
It ain't that serious, brother. But we may be getting a lot more reports for weather outside during Bruins games this year.
Nice transition.
That was a great transition. I didn't even have that pre-planned. So last week comes out. I think this might be the biggest. This might be the off-season news that got people the most hype. Was this? Even though this has a 0% chance of happening, there's no chance this happens. So everything we're about to tell you, we're gonna probably get you really excited talking about the idea of this. Just to know that this is never gonna happen. This is like in school when you wanted like the hottest person in school, and you'd like think about dating them, and then you'd like kind of come to reality and be like, that's actually just never gonna happen. That's like this. That is exactly like this. This is never going to happen.
It's a good way to preface it.
A great way to preface it. This is the person of your dreams that you cannot get. That is what we're about to talk about. So last week comes out from Elliot Friedman and Pierre LeBrun, I believe. Both said teams are considering doing home games outdoors. The Bruins are one of the franchises. I think it came out later that a lot more franchises than initially said. Because initially, what was it? The Kings, Anaheim, Bruins, and
Penguins.
The Penguins. So they were, and then it kind of came out that more teams were for it because they took a vote.
It was like Carolina and
I think
Dallas, Nashville. Yeah. So
that'd be awesome. So again, the idea of this is perfect. I love this. I love the idea. And the Bruins were rumored to have been talking to city officials about Fenway Park, and then they released a statement, I believe. Mm-hmm. I could not find the statement anywhere last week, but I know that they released one. So that happened, and Fenway Park. So I think the idea of them playing at Fenway is great. I think the actual execution is borderline impossible. I also think watching a game there would be terrible. Like, it's fun, like the Winter Classic in 2010. It's fun to be like, I was there. I was at Fenway for the Winter Classic. But I don't think you want every game there. If you're a season ticket holder, I don't think you want to be sitting in, like, you know, the grandstand just kind of watching little figures skate around the ice.
Yeah, no, it's not the most conducive place to watch a hockey game, to say the least. I wasn't there for the 2010 Winter Classic, but I went in 14 and I want to say 17 when they had college hockey there for those games, and it very much loses its luster very quickly. I mean, it's cool when you walk in, you know, you sit down, you're a little chilly, but you know, you get through it because you're chewing up the scenery, you're taking it all in, and then the puck drops and you're like, holy shit, this is terrible. I don't want to deal with this anymore. Yeah. And those like old wooden seats. So like by like the end of the first period, you actually like suctioned into the seat because it's so cold. It's not great. Not a lot of
even the new seats closer to the field that are plastic. I mean, those are not fun to sit in 20-degree weather.
The only like way you could maybe somewhat enjoy it is if you get up to like, you know, like the pavilion box seats or any of those ones higher up there. But even then, you're also then being exposed to like the 40-mile-per-hour winds that would knock those reporters leaning over. You know, it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I mean, in terms of just the general idea, yeah, of course it'd be awesome. And for owners across the league, it makes a lot of sense that, all right, if the season comes back in mid-January, February, you're not going to have a lot of fans, if any, in the stands, right? So your revenue is going to take a hit. Why not, you know, have open the season with, you know, first couple of weeks having a couple of outdoor games just to get, 5,000, 10,000 fans or something in. Like, of course it makes sense. Is it going to happen in Boston? I don't think so. I think if you look at maybe a few of these other teams that are proposing it that are in, you know, markets that are much more lax with how they're handling the COVID pandemic. So, Texas or I think North Carolina. I think the owner of the Hurricanes even mentioned, you know, they've got the NC State Stadium literally right next to them. So
yes.
I think he pretty much flat out said like that's what they're hoping to do. So you see a few of these markets and it seems like an easy switch. For Boston, I think it's easier said than done because one, I mean, let's say they do Fenway, which even then it wouldn't be the best viewing experience. But if you get that approved, I don't know how state or local officials aren't going to put a clamp on that right away. I mean, you could make the case that that the pressure's on the state government anyway to probably do more restrictions in the next couple of weeks based on how the numbers are jumping up. So I don't see even how in the span of 5-6 weeks. It's like, all right, we maybe have gotten this latest spike under control. We're going to send 5,000 drunk Bruins fans into Fenway.
Yeah.
Like it just doesn't make it makes sense from the Bruins perspective in terms of getting revenue, but I don't see how they're going to get the green light to do something like that.
No, Boston. The thing is, Boston is too strict with their COVID regulations to ever let something like this happen. I mean, this is a great. And what's funny is Boston, in a non-COVID time, if you really wanted to do like outdoor games, Boston would probably be the place. You have Fenway, you have Harvard Stadium,
Which would be great.
Which would be
Harvard
Harvard would be
awesome.
Harvard would be the place. And I think that was floated around on Twitter a bit when this Fenway stuff came out. It was like, the idea of outdoor games is great. Fenway is a terrible viewing experience for a hockey game. Any baseball stadium is a terrible viewing experience for a hockey game. Where you should do it is Harvard. That would be like the place to do it. Given just the sight lines, there's no bad seats. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a very historic place anyway, so you kind of get the history involved. So I do. And what's funny is I think if you wanted to, if the NHL really wants to do these outdoor games where there will be fans, as you said, the places that are lax with COVID, Texas, North Carolina. I think Nashville's probably kind of lax with stuff.
Yes.
I'm just going to take a guess. I would probably guess that it's funny. I had friends in California this summer who said that it was as strict as California was. Most people there didn't take it seriously. So it was like a kind of a mix, whereas I think it is serious here and we also do take it seriously. So it's kind of like a good balance. But I do think you could find a place to do if you wanted to do a week or 2 weeks of outdoor games to kind of kick the season off for teams who wanted to do it. I mean, I think that'd be cool. I think that would be something you could do. You could maintain the ice as best you could. If you had a few outdoor rinks in the area, if you did, I don't know, a place like Dallas. Let's say you do Dallas. You could do. I mean, Cowboy Stadium really wouldn't work, but there's a bunch of colleges in the area that you could put.
I mean, you can do the Cotton Bowl, which they used for this past Winter Classic. So
that one,
they probably have for the. It's like when you don't put away all your Christmas tree stuff, you just leave it in the corner. I feel like they just have that like lying somewhere around the Cotton Bowl that they can just use again.
Yeah, so you could do that. I mean, I think that'd be cool, because obviously maintaining outdoor ice for 4 months at NHL, NHL ready ice for 3 or 4 months is borderline impossible. So as fun as that idea is, I doubt it ever happens. But there was some more concrete news kind of put out last week about the NHL with I believe it was Pierre LeBrun of The Athletic wrote something on this, that both the NHLPA representatives and the NHL keep meeting and having these nothing meetings where they just kind of like, I guess, just like talk.
What's up? Yeah.
Hey, how's it going? How was your Thanksgiving? Oh, you got to go? Oh, I'll see you later. Like, that's sort of these conversations.
It's just like awkward pauses, and then it's just one of them. Like, so anyway, we're thinking more about this escrow, and they're like, by the way, I ate Christmas shopping, bye. And that's how it. That's how it just ends.
It's like, yeah, it's exactly like that. It's just like, bye, see ya. All right, all right. You want to talk? Oh, I'll see ya. So that's what's happening. But December 4th, Pierre LeBrun writes, progress, exclamation point. The January 1st start date that both sides were clinging to until the very end. They were like, January 1st is going to be this. I swear it's going to happen. Not anymore. So they're going for a mid-January start this season. And then they're going for a 52-game or 56-game schedule. I don't know how they wouldn't. I think that probably would have happened even with January 1st. I don't know how you do all those games. How you do a full season in a short amount of time. So 52 games or 56 games. I think it probably should be even less. I do.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be 48.
I think 40.
Just follow the same way it was in 2012.
Why not? It made sense. It worked. Like, I don't understand why that's like a big thing. So that was the big stuff. They're trying to get the 2021-22 season to be normal. The TV deal, Beijing. NBC wants the season over with by the time the Olympics start this summer. Because again, remember, it's the 2020 Olympics in 2021.
Yes.
Brilliant marketing on their part.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really much of a surprise that for as much, I think the last couple of weeks has been a lot of, doom and gloom. I think that's, you hit the pot every time there's a labor dispute where it's a lot of posturing between the two sides, and you get a lot of the worst case scenarios tossed out of, we may not have a season. There's owners who are balking at the idea of even playing. But and I think as you said, there's too much on the line for the NHL just to punt on this year, whether it be, getting rid of the last year, that TV deal, which they need to, which if they sign with, ESPN or someone else and they get a massive deal, like that's kind of the NHL and the owner's own kind of stimulus package right there, right? If they, once they get through this year, as much as revenue is going to dry up, if you get that big contract, that's going to alleviate at least some of your problems going forward. But then, you combine that with the fact that the NHL just needs momentum going into 2021, 2022. I mean, Gary Bettman has mentioned that as much as this year is going to be turned on its head, the goal is to at least have a somewhat normal 2021-22 season, and you need to go into that year with some momentum. You have the Seattle Kraken start playing that year. So the last thing you want to do is have that year be built up and you just don't have a season leading up into it, which is a horrible plan if you're trying to get any momentum from a new franchise, especially a team that should do well in Seattle, jumping in. It's not like Vegas where, it turned out to be a great success story, but like them jumping in, you're like, is this even going to work? Like, people didn't really know what the Vegas market was going to be like. You have to think that Seattle's going to, do very well from the get-go.
Well, I don't know if you remember with the Vegas thing, but right before they opened their season, that horrible Mandalay Bay shooting happened.
Yeah.
And I remember that game was like the game that brought like Vegas together. It was sort of like how, the Boston had the Bruins game and they had the Red Sox game where Dave Ortiz, this is our fucking city. So like that was sort of like their moment. And I feel like that kind of Derek Anglin talking, with the mic being like, hey, I've been in Vegas for like 20 minutes. Or I think he grew up in Vegas. So there was that aspect to it. So that like really, I think, helped them in a sense. Or not help them, but like it gave them like more attention because more people were kind of tuning in, and they ended up blowing out the Coyotes like 100-0 that night. And I remember people were like, oh, the Knights ever going to win a game this year? Like they might go defeated, and they ended up going to the Cup final. But Seattle absolutely 100% needs to have momentum going into the season because, again, it's a better market, I think, for hockey on the face of it than Vegas is. But you're getting compared to Vegas. It was a massive success. So they're always going to have that comparison of you need to be just like Vegas. And I think it's going to be tough for them, and you're going to need as much momentum going into next season. I also think you look at the NBA, and you look at the NBA, and it's like, look at the momentum they're building. I mean, just the trades,
they're also
fireworks.
Training camp. They're literally in training camp right now. Like they for all of finishing the bubble and like LeBron and them just stopped playing in October. They're literally right back at it.
Yeah,
they're gonna have games in like a little more than 2 weeks now.
Yeah. Oh my God. So that aspect of it to me is crazy. It's crazy. And you look at what the NHL has; they just have nothing going on right now, and it's looking worse and worse for them. And what's funny is they were the first team back in like April to be like, "Hey, we have a plan. It's not super like defined, but we know we're gonna do this, this, and this." And now they're just like. It's funny, they're arguing over economics, not even the COVID-19 stuff. Right. So anyways, hopefully the NHL comes back at some point. That would be really cool if it did.
Very helpful.
Very helpful for everybody if the NHL decided to come back. So yeah, we hit on Fenway, we hit on Jerome McGinley, we hit on the NHL returning. There's nothing else going on. There's not a lot of other stuff going on in the NHL world. That's sort of it. So that is today's episode of Bruins Beat. Connor, before I let you go, is there anything that you would like to plug?
Yeah, we're going to be obviously following along. This should be a key week for the NHL. It seems like, again, they've been hashing out some of the details of, the dates and, scheduling, stuff like that. But it seems like they're just putting off of like talking about the actual financial part of it, which is the biggest thing that's holding everything up anyway. So, we'll be following that along throughout the week. We'll have a few breakdowns. I think maybe looking at assessing kind of the roster the Bruins have. It feels like all the offseason stuff happened like months ago. So I feel like even people are just like, what even is this team anymore? Like, Krug is in St. Louis, but what the hell else do we? So I'll be looking at that a little bit at the roster and kind of seeing where there could be some strengths or maybe weaknesses on this team. So hopefully we get some good news or at least some more traction of the season coming back within the next couple of days, and then we can start doing the actual fun, content of planning out, lines and all that fun stuff. Start the conversation that's going to go on for the rest of the year of who slides in where and who plays with David Krejci and all that fun stuff.
I can't wait for that conversation. I am so excited to have that conversation back of like, okay, let's focus on hockey. Who is on the right side of David Krejci for the 17th year in a row? Like, I just cannot wait for that. But
I welcome it.
I welcome it too. And we will have your coverage here at CLNS. We'll have your coverage at BSJ. And for CLNS Media, I'm Marinofsky. You Bruins Media listeners, have a great rest of your week.